Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Colleen Meyer, and I am here with an amazing woman, Lafaya Mitchell. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Tell us a little bit about you, Lafaya.
Well, as Dr. Colleen said, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been working with very difficult to work with disorders, what people call it, for many years. I tend to call it the people that I work with hypersensitive, and it's
Mhm.
been something that I've developed over the years, the type of work that I do. So, I mean, very specialized. I'm well known for working with autism spectrum disorder, but I also have worked with the moderate to severe bipolar disorders, reactive attachment disorders, and OCDs, and had quite a bit of success. So much so that I've been asked for many, many years by many parents and colleagues to share what it is or how it is that I'm doing what it is that I'm doing with their children, how I'm getting them engaged and to actually participate and comply and to literally want to come see me. So now I guess for me it felt like it was more of kind of a gifting and not really something that I can kind of take and like package up and give
Mhm.
to other people. But over the years, what I've learned is there is a way to, I guess create a method for my madness.
Mhm.
And I was able to come up with what eventually has been called the Lafaya Way. And
Mhm.
that name did not come by me. That came from many others. Like parents would often say to me, "Oh my goodness, this thing and that thing happened earlier, and I tried it the Lafaya way, and it worked." And well, so I was like, "Oh," it just kind of caught on. So
That's amazing. So you took uh, did you take a process of working with family and kids and make it your own? Is that what you did to come up with the Fayaway?
man, okay, so short answer, kind of.
Okay.
Long answer is that the Lafaya Way is exactly what it's called. It's like my life all wrapped up in a little gift for everybody. So this has
Mhm.
been a lifetime of learning that I've gotten here. So I was a very hypersensitive child, my own self. Now, I guess after a lot of years of studying and learning a bunch of stuff, that I learned that I'm kind of an intergenerational trauma baby,
Mhm.
and I could not have told you that back then, but now I know it very clearly. And over the years, I learned how to find my own pathway to happiness where that just simply did not exist when I was
Mhm.
younger. And then I ended up with a very, very hypersensitive little girl, with quite a few autism spectrum traits.
Mhm.
And I think through the process of actually kind of working with her, I hate using the word working with her because she's my baby, but
Mhm.
it required literal work to get her to be able to just function okay because she has so many sensory issues. So I think
Mhm.
through my life and my life overall, old and young, that's what brought me to the look. And then my work with other people applying concepts that just made sense to me, I ended up with the Lafayette way.
So tell me about how you got started working um, um, with children that are either on the spectrum or children that are high functioning or children, teens, and adults. How did you? When you got into therapy, is that what you wanted to do when you first got into being, or how did you kind of fall into that?
Okay, I was actually, oh my goodness. See, I have so many long stories, you guys. Like I'm so much older than I don't know. I look sometimes, I'm not sure. But
Mhm.
I started out really, I thought I wanted to work with like moms, like either single moms, teen moms, something like that, because I myself was a teen mom. So I thought, oh my goodness, I can teach them that you can make it, you can be
Mhm.
successful, right?
Right.
And it interestingly, psychology wasn't my first choice. It wasn't really
Mm.
something I even thought of. Like it just kind of, I took one psychology class, Psych 101, and I was like hooked. And I was like, oh my goodness, this stuff
Mm.
is so interesting. And then it was years later, after getting all the degrees and all that, it was strange because I decided that I was going to stay home. After I had my daughter, which I had wanted a girl, truth be told, I had wanted a
Mm,
girl for the longest. I had two boys before her. So after I had my girl, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't leave her. Right. And
mm-hmm,
so I decided to be a stay at home mom, which didn't fit for me very long, but I decided to be a stay at home mom. And while I was home with her, I decided I wanted to do side work. And I was invited into this agency to do intensive outpatient work. They said, very
mm-hmm,
flexible, work whatever hours you want to, and all that. I said, okay, oh, that's for me. That's perfect. Right. And when I went into that place, that was like the start of my work with autism spectrum disorder. At the time, I didn't think I knew anything about it at all, but the truth was that my daughter, who was just a baby at that point, a lot of the stuff really matched up, especially with her sensory issues
mm,
and her aversion to eye contact, and lots of different pieces that we had going there. And
mm-hmm,
what I figured out was the same things that I did with her, I ended up doing with the kids that I work with. I had no idea what I was doing with autism spectrum disorder at all. I was like, I don't know anything about this disorder. I was reading a bunch of stuff, and like nobody would give me any information. This was like almost 20 years ago, but there was no information to tell me specifically what to do with the kids, like things that would actually work for an older kid. Like I found stuff for babies, things you can do, floor time and all that, but I couldn't find anything for older kids that
mm.
have like tangible techniques to use to actually work with them. So then I ended up just applying the stuff that made sense to me. Well, and just me being me, which I'm big
Mm-hmm.
weirdo, but the stuff that worked for me actually worked for the kids that I was working with.
That's interesting. Um, that you say that there wasn't a lot of stuff for the older people, older kids or older people. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because people just simply didn't know enough about autism spectrum disorder for one.
Mm-hmm,
Secondly, I think they really only mostly identify with those who were on the very low end of the spectrum, as opposed to those who were higher functioning and
mm-hmm,
required a whole different way of working with them. So there was a lot of behavioral focus, and I'm not against behavioral focus at all. I just know that behavioral tends to work a lot better for those who are younger, unless you combine it with something else when they get older. And that's something else for me, is that relational element. Because for the kids that are a little bit smarter, a little bit more savvy, they're not going to always fall for, they're not always going to kind of go with all these reinforcers and all these things, because
mm-hmm,
after a while they get kind of old. They're like, oh, well, I don't care if I get ice cream at the end of the week for getting good grades anymore, right?
mm-hmm.
I'd rather
Right.
not have to work all week. That feels better to me, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you work from your relationship with them, then all of a sudden you can gain wonderful results, but you have to learn how to relate to them to create that positive relationship.
Now you work with the high functioning, either child, teen, or an adult. But let's take a minute and look at teen and children. But you also spend a lot of time working with parents, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now that ended up kind of being a necessity in working with the kids. So I started out with the kids; they were our identified patients. But I've learned very quickly that there was something to the interaction between the children and their parents, and definitely not playing the blame game, because
Mhm.
these
Right.
kids can be excessively difficult, and we as parents do not receive manuals on how to deal with those kind of
Mm-hmm.
difficulties.
That's
but
right.
but I learned right away, and the parents would always ask me, "Oh my goodness, how did you get them to listen to you? How'd you do this? How'd you do
Mm,
that?" Right. So that automatically led me to understand that I needed to teach them a little bit of some of what it is that I was doing, in order to, so that's how they get them engaged. And they have to actually follow through with the things that I teach and all that at home, because I only get the kids for an hour or two, but the parents have them, forever, all day. So I had
that's
to teach
right.
them.
Now, I think that because I know quite a few people that have children that are somewhere on the spectrum, and I think that what you kind of touched on something. Their parents can be much in understandably so. They can get frustrated, they can get stressed out. They need the help, and I think that you found a way to work with these kids and parents and be able to touch them in a way that's very successful, right? That you're able to reach them where other people can't. And then they refer those either parents or children to you because you have this magic touch, where whatever you're doing, it's different, it's working, and it's working for you and it's working for them.
I had a couple of psychiatrists that really, really loved me. And whenever they would send a referral, it was definitely for the parents. And they learned this about me right away. They're like, oh, I have this wonderful family for you. This is okay. So the kid is on the spectrum, but the parents, and then they tell me all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this, this, this. And I'm like, okay, because they understood exactly how I work. But yeah, in the work with the kids, it kind of led into
Mm-hmm.
my having to do a majority of the work with the parents because it's the parents that actually lead the children to where they need to be. So especially when you're dealing with like autism spectrum, and actually this is not just a spectrum thing, this is also with your other disorders, ADHDs and all, where the kids tend to be on their own agenda, then you have to know how to speak to them. You have to know how to get them engaged in order to actually get any real results. If you don't know that, if you don't have that foundation of how you should come at them, then you're automatically going to find yourself at a loss trying to get them to do anything that you want them to do.
I think that goes for all kids, right? So
Right.
let's talk about. So we've been talking about um, working with parents and children that are on the spectrum, and but let's talk about let's kind of shift gears here a little bit. I know you work with parents when because right now we're coming out of this pandemic. Kids are still in hybrid schools, so they went from online, which is frustrating, and I can speak from that. When I have my granddaughter, every day to get her to get up and go onto the computer and do schoolwork was frustrating. It was a battle. It was a fight. And, you know, if I'm sure there's parents like me out there, or I was a grandparent, but parents and grandparents and um, whoever's watching children during that time frame and this continuing to this time frame, we just feel like giving up. They don't want to get up and go on. They don't want to do their homework. I got to go to work and hey, little Johnny, you need to get up and go to school, get on the computer. You walk out the door and little Johnny is not doing, he's back asleep. And it's frustrating. So you also work with parents to help them with the frustrations, the anxieties of not only dealing with this pandemic, but also with this back to this hybrid school and trying to juggle work, getting them to do their schoolwork. Because a lot of parents can't afford to have a parent. A lot of families have to have two incomes.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your work that you do with parents with dealing with the frustrations and anxiety that comes along with this pandemic and the hybrid schooling.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because now the funny part is my friend is always saying that all kids are hypersensitive right now and all parents are hypersensitive right now because the world has been in such a state that we're all just extra sensitive to the stimuli around us, and we're all struggling in massive ways. And so it, it's the way that I work with. Oh, did I break up a little bit? Like I broke up
A
a
little
little bit.
bit. Okay, you're okay now, I think. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Sorry. I saw myself moving in slow motion, but anyway, with technical stuff difficulty. But anyway,
That's
the
technology today,
work that I
right? So we
do
have
with
to. Okay.
right the work that I do with parents is that first of all, I help them to learn how to manage their own frustrations because if they don't, when you're dealing in hypersensitive situations or with other hypersensitive people, then what you get is them kind of drawing from you the energy that you're releasing. So then they're going to give that back to you, and you guys just kind of have this negative energy exchange going back and forth all day long, every day, right? And then you wonder why you don't have influence over the
Right.
kids. So you come in and if you're, especially if you're already expecting it, you're already expecting for it to go badly. And it's tough because if I get a chance to be proactive with the parents, then I can warn them ahead of time and say, look, there's a likelihood that you're going to have a kid or two that does not want to get up, that has a hard time, that absolutely hates this whole learning by computer. They already didn't like school when they were in person. It's even worse now. Now you have to look at a screen, and when you have zero interest in looking at a screen for educational purposes, right? And so, and they're gonna fall back to sleep one or two times or whatever. And when this happens, you have to already be prepared for it, so that you're already trying to figure out how to find your woosah moment. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is where now getting into the relational aspect of what it is that I do. Now, what it is that I do works extremely well for, like I said, those kids with a, we know on a spectrum, all those other that I listed, all the initials that I listed
Mm-hmm.
before. But it also works very well in general in relationship with another person, especially in difficult situations. Because if you work this, then you won't have those elements working against you that we tend to have working against us. We tend to create this and not realize that we're doing it. I know people have heard this, our, I guess, our basic physics, right?
Mm-hmm.
If whatever thing you put the most energy into, it's going to give you the energy right back, right? And
Right.
so, and I'm now getting super basic because that's not my area, but um, super basic. But
Not my area either.
okay, but I teach people that you have to learn how to feed the thing you want more of. And we tend toward human default is to
Mm-hmm.
focus in on the problem. And when we focus in on the problem, then what we get is more of the problem. And then we wonder why, as opposed to understanding that if we start focusing more in on the solution, which people often think that they think that when they're upset with another person, that should create a situation where the other person understands there should be some kind of change that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would the other person like for me to be upset with them, right? This is what
Yeah.
many people say. Right. But now if you're dealing with kids, especially those who lack the proper amount of mirror neurons, which means they're very selfish. They're very
Mm-hmm.
self-absorbed. They very much think about themselves most of the time because for some kids, their brains literally aren't made strong in the area of being able to 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 draw from another person's feelings and have that be understood as something that's uncomfortable for them. They're
Mm-hmm.
too busy in their own selves, in their own feelings, to be able to take yours and like people always say, well, put yourself in my shoes. For certain kids, that is almost an impossibility. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to look up now, because I'm not getting into all that part either, brain psychology stuff, but they're literally, especially with autism spectrum, they often don't have the same amount of mirror neurons as your
Mm-hmm.
neurotypical person. So they automatically they have a biological reason for why this happens. Now, I would say that what's been being created in our society today is an extreme version of that happening over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
because now people aren't really born to connect with other people as much. So back when we before computers, before all this technology, right? We all related to one another in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the furthest we got apart was to talk on the telephone, which is very different than today. Now it's mostly texting. The kids they're uncomfortable having conversations sometimes because they're
Mm-hmm.
so accustomed to typing, or whatever, something in, right?
Right.
And so if you pay close attention, there's been an increase in babies born who they say carry autism spectrum like traits. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that comes along with the advances in technology. Again, I'm not against the advancement of technology. I just know it takes away that personal element where the needing to have as many mirror neurons to be able to relate and connect with another person on that
Mm-hmm.
person to person basis, not so much necessary. And we evolve in a way to where when something's not as necessary, kind of goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I find that interesting that you're saying that because um, I remember my time, and this is now we're going back years and years and years. When I was in law enforcement early in my 20s, and I remember when we were going through the academy, they were talking about what you're saying about children that are being born in that physical contact and that emotional contact. So if you have babies that that you're always touching and paying attention and getting all of that, they are different than babies that if you had babies that there's that less of that emotional and human contact. How it changes how they are as they grow and develop. So that, I
Hmm.
think that's interesting because it's true, and we can even take that a step further and say, since everybody's okay, where everybody's online, technology, and then we're in a pandemic and now everybody's online, kids are online, and you have kids that might have ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, and I almost feel like they have to kind of teach themselves in this new tech technology based schooling. This don't you agree? Because I know my granddaughter, she's dyslexic, and I think the one of the frustrations that she has with going in and doing online schooling is, I think she's embarrassed that she can't keep up. I don't think she's learning the material. When she's doing the homework, I think she struggles a little bit because who's there to help her?
Hmm.
I mean, she's 13 years old. Who's there to help her? And I think there's a lot of kids out there that that's what this hybrid schooling, this new modern day hybrid schooling that our children are dealing with. That's, I think, the frustrations of the kids. And like you say, then the parents, because we don't understand what's happening, we get mad and we're upset with them because they're not going to school and they're not doing the schoolwork, and you're getting these emails from teachers and you're getting calls, and it's frustrating, and then they get mad and upset, and then that doesn't it's just becoming a snowball. So how would you help, what would you say to parents, or grandparents, or people that are dealing with those kids that are not doing what they're supposed to in this hybrid schooling? How can you fix that? What can we do to help that child?
Well, I think that one of the pieces is to you explained it so well. And it's often that the parents, grandparents, they actually do understand what's going on when they're not, and it's not blocked when they're not really upset. See, what ends up happening is the parents, grandparents, they kind of know what's going on. They can tell you in a logical moment. But in a heated, upset moment where you just saw that email or you just got another call, or
Mm-hmm.
or you see that they're asleep when it's time for school, right? And things
Right.
like that, in that heated moment, we're not able to express what's really going on. That's one of the major problems, is it? And then it gets into, oh, well, they're so lazy and they're so this and they're so that, right? And then you have this message going on in your own mind about what this child is about. You're promoting this message. You're telling them, hey, this is what you are. And then you're expecting for
Mm-hmm.
them not to be that. Say,
Right.
you're putting energy into the thing that's in them that you don't want, instead of putting energy into the thing that you do want. See, the reason that we become upset as parents and grandparents is because we know that the kids can do better. Like, parents say this
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I'm so disappointed. I'm so frustrated because I've seen them do well. I know they can do this, right? But the problem is that that's not the message that you're really conveying. Now they may even say this, you can do better than this, right? But when
Right.
they're saying it with that undertone of, you're so lazy, like almost a, why do you suck so much? Like, why can't you just try, right? Those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things. Instead of speaking to those very things that you just spoke to, which are the actual truth. This is hard to do. Nobody wants to look at a computer all day. We like screens for entertainment. Now you've ruined screens for us, right? And we don't want it, even though they're not like literally, they may be literally thinking some of this, but some of it is emotional too. Is
Right.
now it's very, very aversive. It's very upsetting to me to have to look at this screen and call that my school day. And then, not to mention the other side of it for the kids who may be a bit more shy or self-conscious, which is probably every kid beyond what, with the way today's society makes you have to be perfect at what, starting at the third grade, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
before nowadays. Before, it would be
Right.
seventh, eighth grade people feel self-conscious. Now we have little second, third graders talking about how they feel like they're not beautiful. But get getting beyond that piece, that's soapbox
Yes.
area. But now you have it set up to where you are not looking at the backs of the heads of other students anymore. Or if you're in the front of the classroom, you're not looking in the faces of a bunch of students hardly ever unless they turn around. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
classroom environment looks like. So there's not all eyes on you, spotlight on you as soon as you speak or move.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're on these Zoom calls, then it's spotlight on you. As soon as you speak, your box lights up. Every face is looking at your face. And so it's a very uncomfortable, whether some are able to express it and some
Right.
are not. It just feels ugh. So then they don't want to go back. So
You, no, I'm sorry. Well, I want to touch base when you were talking about that, about them being the spotlight. So if they're in school and the teacher calls upon them and they talk, then they're usually their picture, right? Or the kids are all looking at them. And I think what you find is these kids are putting their, well, and I can say this for my granddaughter, she would put her face on her, just the picture, not the camera live, but her picture, still frame. And then I hear the teacher telling them, okay, take that off, or I'm going to mark you absent. And there's a lot of kids doing it. And I think that's it. They're uncomfortable to be in the center of attention. And but on the teacher's end, they're looking at, um, on the teacher's end, they're looking at, oh, they're going back to sleep, which could be happening. But they're not looking at it as the child is maybe doesn't want to be the center of attention on a Zoom call. But also, I was listening in to a Harvard webinar last week at Harvard School, and they were talking about teaching adult learners. And they were saying that if you're teaching adult learners, you need to change it up or mix it up, especially online, every 7 minutes. Okay, so every 7 minutes because of the attention span. But if we're doing that for adults, how come we don't view it as we need to change it every 7 minutes for kids?
every 3 minutes for kids. If it's 7 for adults, right? Then we need half that for kids. Oh my goodness, you are so right. And that's another piece too, is it was already bad enough to go into the physical classroom and feel bored. Could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine being in your bedroom? Which, by the way, I know you asked a question earlier. What do you say? What do you do with parents, grandparents who are struggling with some of these areas? Some of it is if you can find an area in your home outside of the child's bedroom, highly, highly, highly recommended, that's specifically set aside for school time, that would make things easier. Because see,
Right.
rooms are associated with sleep. They're associated with kind of just relaxing, decompressing, and all that kind of stuff. It is not going to be a quick shift for most people to make that bedroom a place where you work now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because there's too many, even for your kid who's not highly distractible, their room is still distracting because that's
Mm-hmm.
where they've done all the stuff that they enjoy being away from everybody else, doing, or playing their video games, or whatever, or watching TV or anime, or doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is they do. It's very important to recognize that for those kids who are struggling inside of their rooms, to create a space, even if it's even if it's just somewhere, dining room area where it's just, in the corner somewhere where it's just kind of set up like a desk or something. And that actually fulfills two purposes. So one is they have a specific area that they know is for school and working on school stuff. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that only that helps with focus. And then it also takes them out of the same environment all day long. So it breaks some of that. There's isolation already happening because they're not going to school, but there's extra isolation associated with now your full day is usually centered around your room. Okay. And so it's just, it's highly recommended that you set up a space if you can find one in your home. Sometimes I think even in the garage or something, if you have to, if it's not cold or whatever, if you can set it up that way, but something that's just for them for school.
And what you said, because they tell us that, when adults can't sleep, don't go read or watch TV in the bedroom because that's the bedroom, and then you can't sleep because you got all the stimulus going on. And I think we don't realize that with kids. Take them out of the bedroom, put them in their space. This is your school space. Here, this is school. And then when they're in that space, that can help them focus. But let's talk a bit about parents, right? Parents, because we got the over here we have the child's frustrated, the child is trying to focus, but then you get on the other side of it, you have the parents that are frustrated. So there's two levels, I think, to this. And the level is, um, you're dealing with the child and you're dealing with the parent. You're dealing with the frustration. You're dealing with the frustration. You're dealing with the anxiety. You're dealing with the anxiety. And I know you have your program, your Parents and Empowering Parents program, that really addresses the parents portion of it, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that parents portion of dealing with the stress and frustration.
Okay, well, now I just want to say there are quite a few things that I offer to the parents because I want to make sure that parents are very well supported. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some are, of course, I offer, for free. You want things more personalized, then of course, we have things that parents can, pay to do.
Right.
But some of what I do includes like my Q&A. The Lafaya
Mm-hmm.
Way is basically a live forum where they come into, it's a Zoom style call, and they get to ask me questions right there on the spot. Like we get to process what's been going on
Mm-hmm.
during the
Right.
past couple of weeks. So we meet every other week, and they get a chance to really kind of vent, but vent productively, because I don't do the just we just sit in and we just kind of complain. I do the share this so that everyone else can hear, so that other parents can know that they're not the only ones having the experiences that you're having, for one, but then
Mm-hmm.
two, so that we can create a solution that everybody can hear and vibe off of and share what their experiences have been with similar things, successes, what didn't work, all that kind of stuff. So it gives a space and place for parents to just get that extra support that they need. And then when we're taking a look at like the program support that we're offering now we've really pulled it together and come up. I have
Mm-hmm.
this fantastic woman. Her name is Linda McNulty,
I
that
met her.
I
She's
have working with
amazing.
me in my pro. She's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing.
She
She is
is.
like top advocate. She's been fighting for the parents forever. So we're the same, that I'm consistently, I will go into the schools and fight for the parents. I will go wherever, if there are accommodations needed, I'm
Mm-hmm.
right there. And they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, well, I'm the person who knows how to have some breakthrough with this kid. So if you
That's
would like
right.
for them to stop acting out in your school, then you would want to hear what it is I have to say.
Lafaya, I went to your last your Parents Empowering Parents PEP last month, and I found that it was so interesting. So, like we said, we were during our COVID, and my daughter is an essential worker. I had my granddaughter, and even though things are starting to shift, looking back and talking about the things that you were saying and the things that Linda was saying, I was thinking, oh my God, I have tools. I got tools so that if I ever have to step in and help with her, I can do that. And not only that, you, with you and Linda, I was able to tell my daughter, hey, you got to come and listen to Lafaya talk, because, because she's always like, my hair is pulling, and she's always, I feel like my daughter is always trying to, she's always frustrated. She's always in this vacuum of drama. And it tends to come from, a lot of it can come from, because she's a single mom now and working with kids. And I said, well, you need to go sit with Lafaya and listen to Lafaya and her PEP, and then look at some of her programs that she has. That's the paid programs, because I think you will make a difference. And I think that what people don't see is that it's not just come and listen. It's come, listen, get skills, listen to other parents. Because when people would say, oh, my child did this, I'm like, oh my God, so did my granddaughter. Or,
Mm-hmm.
one thing Linda said was, if your child is on, those, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called, because I don't do this for a living, but
IEP 504.
yes, I IEP,
Uh-huh.
uh, and because they have learning disabilities that they're supposed to be helping during the pandemic.
Yes.
We got nothing.
Oh, see, now this is it. This is the importance of actually attending, especially our meetings, because
Mm-hmm.
we're giving so much information to parents, and it's super powered. So
Mm-hmm.
I have that whole parenting piece, how to build a relationship. Linda has that whole advocacy side. She's been doing it for so many years, and I mean, she knows
Mm-hmm.
her stuff. She knows all the legal. She's like top notch.
Yes.
And then she also has, on top of that, she has that behavioral background where she
Mm-hmm.
knows how to do the work in, oh my goodness. See, I don't hate behavioralism. I don't like it when it stands alone. That's the only time
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue, is when they try to make it work alone, as if the children are dogs or something. No,
That's
these are
right.
these are these are little people, these are young people, young adults that we're dealing with, and so
Yes.
you have to come in from a different perspective. You have to come in accepting who they are as a person
Mm-hmm.
and relating to them as a person, and not saying that you treat them as if they're a parent too. but you do have to treat them a certain way with understanding of how they function so that you can influence them. And
Hmm.
that's what I teach. And
That's right.
being so, but let me, because I have to tell you about the program, because the program is really, really good. Like, I'm super excited
I
about the
loved it.
program. So we have our portion that we call it our weekly sanity sessions. And
Hmm.
basically, this is all parents. This is me and the parents deep diving into the 3 parenting books that I've written from the Lafaya Way series,
Right.
and really, literally taking and applying the concepts to real life stuff that they're dealing with right now, so we can go over a certain section and be like, now this is how you apply this to your situation here, your situation there. And then we come back every 2 weeks. So we meet, do that weekly. Then we meet every 2 weeks and we talk about, okay, how have you applied the concepts? What worked, what didn't, what adjustments did you make? All that kind of stuff. So we're going to be doing that. And then that's on our first tier. So that already right there is like creating a level of mastery for parents that's like awesome. But then we have our second tier where you get that piece in the first tier, but then you also get social skills groups, real social skills groups for your kids. So for those with the higher functioning kids that are quirky or kind of sometimes don't get the social part quite right,
Hmm.
extra shy or whatever, or unable to self advocate, those kind of things. We have a social group piece for those who are higher functioning because they're falling through the cracks. They have plenty of social skills groups for kids that are lower functioning, but they don't have hardly anything out there for the higher functioning. And I've
Hmm.
been hearing parents ask me this for years. Well, do you have a group? Do you have a group? I'm like, okay, I need to create groups for the kids. So we finally
Hmm.
done that. And we're tying in ABA, applied behavioral analysis concepts, along with the Lafaya Way, the relational approach. And it's going to be like a super powered approach to socializing that is going to, seriously, this is going to be like fire, right? Okay.
Hmm.
And then you also, on that second tier, you get you get a few personal coaching sessions with me as well in that. So you get either individual, whatever you want, individual, parent, family. You can blend and mix them however you want. And then on the third tier, we're adding all of those things plus the advocacy piece.
Lafayette, it's interesting because what I love about your program, and I wish I'd known about it honestly when my kids were young. They're in their 30s now, um, and but I think that what's happening now, and I think this is the disadvantage with where we at with the pandemic and doing this hybrid school. Okay, I think that our kids are stressed. I think our kids are depressed. I think our kids are having anxiety, just like parents. And that's going to affect them down the road.
Oh yeah,
Just like kids get affected by divorce or kids get affected by all these different things that happen, trauma, that just happens, life stuff. But now that my kids are older, I can look back and say, okay, I wish I'd done something about A, B, C, D, and E. But now we're sitting and there's A, B, C, D, and E still going on in people's lives. But now on top of that is this pandemic that we're coming out of and this hybrid schooling. And can you imagine if we don't help them through that frustration and anxiety and depression that these kids are feeling? How is that going to affect them, 10, 15, 30 years down the road?
right, right. No, it's a huge deal. Like this time right now is such a significant time. Like we are literally living in the making of history, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be in the history books. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that we're on top of taking care of our parents and our children during these times and our families just in general,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it's
Right.
all about. It's the fair way. We're healing the world one relationship at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's any relationship. And people, sometimes you really can't miss it. Once you start to learn the Lafaya Way, once you start to learn the 4 core concepts, then you start to work those. You start to work them in every relationship throughout your life, in your relationship with your dog, even. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
like all about superpower relation, being able to relate in influential ways and that are true to that get you to your truest intentions, by the way. So you get your needs met and their needs get met, which it takes for when you love people, it takes for them to get their needs met for you to get your needs met. One of the most important things for you to learn, through them and
Mm-hmm.
in relating to them, you know. And so, but it's just right now, dealing with those things like depression, staying very aware of the fact that depression is high, anxiety is high, suicide rates are getting absolutely ridiculous. It's
Mm-hmm.
scary out there right now. You just gave me an idea because I was thinking, okay, I'm doing a social skills group for the kids that are awkward and have a tough time. But right now, who hasn't become a little awkward? Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's been such a lack of ability to be able to connect with other people. Now people in the hybrid programs are kind of going back in uncomfortable. A lot
They
of
are.
children are choosing not to go back to school, because especially those who are more introverted, because they've become so comfortable in isolation, because that's always been where their comfort zone is anyway. Now they
Mhm.
don't want to go out, right? And for
Right.
those who would go out before, now they're a lot of times they're either fearful now because they don't know how to interact with other people, or they're not cautious enough, right? So
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting both ends of the spectrum. But I was just thinking for the program, at least for some time, if parents have any interest at all, you guys let me know, because I'm parent demand. But let me know. We could have even isolation breakers to try to help people kind of get back. How do we get back on track with getting out into the social world again? Like, how do we deal with
Mm-hmm.
that?
It's interesting because when you're talking about that, you just mentioned, getting back out there. My sister, my niece, just graduated high school during the pandemic. She finished the last part of her senior year in on a hybrid school. Not hybrid; it was completely online, and she didn't like it. And going into college now, there's this fear that she has. She doesn't want to go into college um, online. She doesn't want, and now my sister's even having a hard time getting her to go back to, or go to, not back to, but go to on campus college. So this whole COVID pandemic has really created, especially with some of these students they're introverts rather than extroverts. Um, it's really put a gap in their ability to deal with other people socially now, whether it's continuing dealing with that online and or now going into a hybrid college campus. Even we're not talking about a university, we're talking just about a JC. We're trying to get her to slowly move into that adult world of college, and it's a no-go. So it's not just the little kids, it's these young adults.
Well, now let's get a little bit into, because I hate to just be a part of any interview and not share, the four core that are within the Lafaya Way concept, because I want to
Please.
give that empowerment of influence. Okay. And
Okay.
I'm going to speak to that whole not wanting to go back to college. So don't let me forget. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm going to go through the steps semi quickly. If you want more information, oh my goodness, you can find so much information, you guys, out there through my YouTube channel. I describe the 4 steps at length. Can't go as deep as I will in the program. So make sure if you can vibe with that stuff, if you get it, and if you're like, oh my goodness, this is like life changing, then come join our programs, because it's really important to grow in these concepts. But anyway, step one is to find your calm. That's the number one. So I can
Gotcha.
understand that when you have someone who has the skills and the ability to do certain things and they're not doing them, one of the first places that go to typically is frustration instead
Mm-hmm.
of understanding. And it's interesting, because if you were speaking to someone else about it, oh well, I can understand why she would blah blah blah, because because it's tough. I'm sure it's tough with these things, but oftentimes we don't convey this message to the person who is struggling. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the first pieces is to find your calm. And when you find yourself upset, work your way through that with the true understanding, with the understanding of what's really going on. Okay, which leads us into the second step, which is understand the real truth. Okay, not that thing that pops up in your heart area, that upset feeling and all. That's not ever. There's no truth in that. That's just a feeling that came up because there was some stimulation that you didn't like. Okay, that's all feelings are. Something you didn't like something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's an identifier. Or you like something. Like if we get real basic with feelings, you either liked it or you didn't, right? And
Right.
so, but then once you understand that you didn't like it, then you need to get to the what's really going on. Okay, well, I don't like it because she has to, she has to go to school. It opens up so many doors for her. I'm afraid she won't be successful without it. I know that she could be more successful. I know that she can do it. So, that kind of thing, right? So
Right.
then you get to it and it just frustrates me, right? But then challenge those thoughts. Challenge it just frustrates me. Does it frustrate you, or are you fearful of it? Because where's this frustration has to come from some core space. It's not just
Hmm.
standing alone, right? There has to be something behind it. Because if she didn't have the capability, then the frustration wouldn't be there, right? If your
Right.
personality were maybe a little bit different, the frustration wouldn't be there, right?
That's
If
right.
you had a sandwich for lunch instead of missing lunch, right? Frustration might not be there as strong, right?
Right.
So we have to really take a look at what's really going on. So understanding the real truth is really important. And then so I call it my fur, like boots with fur. If you are with the long R, right? Fur. But find your calm, understand the real truth, react according to your truest intentions. Reacting according to your truest intentions is really, really difficult to do. I won't say the most difficult because people always say find your calm is the most difficult.
Hmm.
But reacting according to your truest intentions has everything to do with finding your calm. Because see, if a person were to come up to you, usually, typically, and ask
Hmm.
you, man, do you enjoy being so frustrated and upset or disappointed about things, so much? Do you enjoy that? Is that fun for you? Then most times people would say, well, heck no, right? I don't want to feel
That's right.
bad. I don't like them, right?
Or
And
drama.
right. When we react according to our truest intentions, then we're getting to like what's really going on with us, what's really going on with them. Let's help figure out so that I can help you get to where you want to get to. Your truest intention is to get her reacting in the way that you see that she can. You want her to live according to her potential and not underneath that, right? So
Mm.
when you're reacting according to that, then that doesn't include frustration, irritation, disappointment. Because then you're sharing with her, oh my goodness, I can't believe, why are you doing this? This doesn't make you can do, and some people, they may go the nicer route, right? You can do this, like, but the you can do this
Yeah, the
even turns
cheerleader.
into, right,
Cheerleader.
right.
You
But
can
the
do
you can,
it.
right. But the you can do this. There's often frustration behind it. And when they don't
Hmm.
respond quickly enough, then there's frustration that comes quickly after that you can do it, right?
That's true.
So that's
Yes.
not where you want to go either. It's more of the now you want to speak to, and I'll get to the fourth step after, but now you want to speak to the things that are most important, which are, oh babe, I know that this is really tough for you, right? This is how you start out. I know the whole idea this is really tough for you because of this. And you tell them what's really going on with them. Because this year of COVID has been insane. It's changed so many people, even down to their personalities. But I'm gonna need you, and we're gonna fight together. I'm gonna need you to fight. Because I know that
Hmm.
you're stubborn. You're stubborn. We know you're stubborn because you're stubbornly refusing to go. But I need you to divert all of your stubborn energy into stubbornly fighting against that depression or that anxiety that was inserted into you because of these COVID times, right?
That's right.
Let's send all of that stubborn energy that you have into the space that's going to create something that you really want. Because the last thing you're going to want is to be years down the line thinking, oh, I should have, and I wish I had done, and all these
Yes.
things, right? So then
Right.
you're actually speaking truth to them in a way that they can actually connect to and be able to move with. So, and then it goes into, well, even if it's just one course, or even if it's just two courses, just to kind of step into it, then don't
Right.
deny yourself that, right? So we're making
Right.
it, keeping it about them instead of, because what happens is we get frustrated, we make it about us.
That's
I
true.
can't believe you're doing this. I'm so disappointed. I'm so frustrated. That's not helpful. What is helpful is, babe, this is what you want. This is what you're going to need. This is what, this is what you will enjoy, right? When you come from
Right.
that perspective, then not only do you get your needs met, but you help them to meet their own needs.
Exactly. And I think that that is something that's really helpful when dealing with your older children, getting them, whether it's getting them back to high school or if it's supporting in them and getting them back to getting them into, or depending if they just graduated, into or back into the college level. And I just think this whole COVID thing has gotten them so, not, there's that lack of that social integration, especially with introverts.
Mhm. And to share that, because sometimes the feeling of going back around other people is so uncomfortable
Yes.
that the brain will try to figure out why is this body so uncomfortable and come up with all of these reasons, and all the reasons will turn out to be, well, I don't really want to do this. I never wanted to go to college in the first place. I always hated school. Why would I do more school? Right? Because the brain, when there's negative feeling in the body, is going to try to figure out what's the source. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's going to be, well, because you're always pressuring me as a parent or grandparent, right? That's why I'm
Right.
frustrated, because you're always pressuring me. You should let me do what I'm right, kind of thing. But
Right.
all that's really based in the negative emotion insertion in the first place, from the discomfort. And most people will steer clear of even thinking about all of where the feeling came from, like truly, right?
Right.
And they'll make it about something else.
Well, Stevie Mudrow just liked that comment, so she gave you a heart. So thank you, Stevie, for sharing. Lafayette, let's go back to what you were saying about some of the. We were talking about getting some of the older, the teenagers and the young adults, getting them back to school and to college. So do you want to just give just like a real quick? I know we went over the your four. It's Do you want to give us a real, because we got people coming in, the recap real quickly of your four steps for your the Lafaya Way?
Sure, I love to share. If for those who you missed it, you guys, if you miss it and you feel like, oh my goodness, I want to learn more about this, please visit my YouTube channel. Free, no problem. Subscribe, because then you'll get the new stuff. But I describe the four core in so much depth, and what you
Yep.
do in certain situations in so much depth that'll help you. But it's at youtube.com/ the letter C / Lafaya Way, which is written, kind of going across the screen, Lafaya Way. But check it out. But anyway, the four core are: find your calm. Okay, and these are all four reasons, right? These are my
Mm-hmm.
right? Find your calm, understand the real truth. When you're trying to relate to a person that you love, or someone that you
Mm-hmm.
may not love, but you're trying to relate to in a way where you want to have influence, these are very important. Understand the real truth. What's really going
Mm-hmm.
on in this situation, right? React according to your truest intentions, especially with those that you love, parents out there especially. React according to your truest intentions. React in a way that's going to get the results that you truly want, that's going to speak to the person that you love instead of speaking to the things that you hate. Because if you speak to the things that you hate, you get more of those. But if you speak to the one that you love, you get more of that, which is wonderful,
Yes.
right? So react according
Yes.
to your truest intention. And then my last R, long R, is to recognize the small step differences. So very important when you're looking for change in your life. If you have a kid who maybe they were falling asleep when it came time for school or whatever, right, or they were sleeping through the entire time, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get them and they're, even though it took you three times, they got up that third time instead of falling back to sleep that final time again, right? Then
Yes.
even though it's frustrating to have gone three times, it's more frustrating that they never do it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a small step improvement that you have to grab a hold of. Oh, babe, I'm so proud of you for getting up. You were having such a tough time. For those of you who missed the beginning, please find a space that's not their bedrooms for them to do their work. That would be really
Your
that's a
schoolwork.
really smart idea. But we talked about it earlier, so you have to watch the previous recording if you want to hear more of that. But so recognize the small step differences, reinforce them highly. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you bring it up and that you're building from that. Like you're creating these stepping stones with each little piece of progress. I don't care if they studied 10 minutes longer or they clean faster. Usually take them an hour of arguing with you and they only took like 10 minutes to argue with you or something. All these things are improvements. Highly reinforce them and then repeat. The four steps is the last piece about R. But if you follow these steps and you do it consistently, what you'll find is a very healthy relating to others, but then also that you will carry an awful lot more influence than you did before, because you'll be
Mm-hmm.
making it about, see, people think that it's making it about the other person. Truth be told, it is making it about you. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're able to influence the other to do what you need for them to do, then that's the most important aspect, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're ultimately looking for, is for everybody's needs to be met. And if you're trying to assert you're not trying to, just force what your needs are, oftentimes, especially with hypersensitive people, they won't be able to connect with that anyway. So then
Mm.
nobody gets their needs met.
So, Lafayette, our time is almost up. It's almost been an hour. So, if
Yes.
anybody wants to learn more about your program, they can go to the www.lafayaway.com, and your PEP, which is your Parents Empowering Parents, which is going to be April 24th at 9 o'clock, is under events. And if anybody's interested in your packages that you offer, it would be at the lafayaway.com under services. And I know you got a lot of your service packages on sale right now. So that's a really great thing for people to get in there and look at.
Yeah, I really want people to come in and take advantage, because we have really, really good, first of all, introductory offers, and I'm truly trying to get this out there to the world. At some point
Mm-hmm.
soon, I will become an extremely busy person, but until that happens, I'm going to be giving as much as I possibly can to everybody before I'm taking off to, because all these people are like, oh, this is going to become a great curriculum and training of trainers
Mm-hmm.
and all this stuff that, I guess is coming, but you guys
I
have
believe
access
it.
to me right now. So come take
Yes.
advantage.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.